Yeah, I'm just setting it up because I've got.
What, you put on this clothes away?
Yeah. I'm going to get World's birthday card from the hospital. There's a W.H. Smith and Son. I don't know what I could ask. I haven't got Tony's number actually. Okay, thank you. Oh, okay. I can do it. Hiya.
Okay.
You're not too bad.
How's the football going?
That's going well. I've been playing quite a bit, which has kept me going, kept me a little bit sane. So, as I said, the fact I can play at my age is quite something.
Who do you play for?
Play for Barnet. I've got to say, Barnet over 50s walking football team.
Right. Okay.
You can even get pulled.
Okay.
For old gits basically, but are past playing at a certain level, but it gives it's like a second chance.
Right. Okay.
There's one guy who's 84 who plays.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
I'm in Yorkshire.
Oh, Mazel Tov.
Lovely.
Oh, nice.
Another foreigner joining the meeting.
Well, this is the wonders of the technology, Hannah.
Yeah, it's great.
I know. Everybody okay? How are we?
Fine, thank you.
How's
Mum, Kevin?
She's still struggling a little bit. She's in hospital still because she's got
But
two
they're
broken
looking
legs.
after her properly, I hope.
Northwick Park. It's kind of it's sort of tough. She's cheerful. That's the main thing. Because she's got dementia, I don't think she's kind of aware of her surroundings. I tell you, it does have its advantages. Being blissfully unaware.
Good. Well, that's quite nice.
It's a blessing because if you knew how bad she was, it's quite depressing. So
Yeah.
everyone else does the worrying. And Alan, you okay? Football season starting next week, Alan?
I thought it had started today, hadn't it? Or yesterday?
No, for Barnet next week. I've got my season.
Oh, Barnet, I beg your pardon. Sorry.
Actually,
I'll go back to sleep.
The important league. Alan, you're muted.
Do Hendon still play?
Yeah, hi Rania. Yeah, Hendon playing Kingsbury.
Right, okay. Because my father used to support Hendon.
Claremont Road, that old ground.
Okay.
It's long since sold for development, but yes, as Kevin says, they now play it in Kingsbury.
Whereabouts in Kingsbury?
Well, Silver Jubilee Park, if that means anything to you.
Where?
Silver Jubilee Park.
Hi Mel. Hi Michael.
Sorry.
Shalom, everybody.
Hello, Michael. Shabbat shalom.
Hello, Michael.
Hello. Good to see you.
Michael, you must have the neatest bookcase. I've spent a lot of lockdown studying people's bookcases, and yours is so tidy.
Oh, I'm sorry I failed on that score.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Alan. You're not doing too bad.
Well, I think the thing about my books is, if you look closely, a lot of them are worn. Most of those books get used a lot.
All right, well, it's good.
They're not just there for show by any means.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'm sure you do.
So how are you, Kevin?
Not too bad, thank you for asking. Well, we've got Rania from France.
Right.
And we've got Hannah's currently in Yorkshire.
Right.
So that's two foreigners.
Kevin, does Michael know about the death we had in the community?
Yes, yeah, Rosa, I've mentioned.
Fine. Okay.
Yes, I've got that information. Thank you.
And what I'm going to do, I'm going to make you co-host.
Thank you.
Just if you want to do any screen sharing or if you want to mute people yourself.
But you're going to share the readings.
Yeah, I've got it up here, so
yeah.
I'm fine doing that. What we normally do during the sermon, we put you on spotlight. I'm sure you can handle that, Michael.
Yes. I might select another screen so I don't have to look at myself.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what a lot of people say. It's quite intimidating and that. Basically, because what we do, I mentioned now, we video these for our social media page, and we generally put with your consent, that is, we would quite possibly put your sermon up, but probably we'll speak to you afterwards. You may, for whatever reason, you may not want it. You might be too controversial or something. And
so, have we got someone for the Haftarah?
Yes, Stephen Sanderson.
Okay.
It's the site of his grandfather. And we normally just before 11, which I'm quite happy to read, is we do a few mitzvot that we like to allocate. But feel free to pick on people at any stage, Michael, just to make sure they're on their toes.
Well, Janet, Shabbat Shalom.
She's muted.
I hear you have a special birthday coming up.
Is that right?
Not really. No, I thought that's
Yes, really.
Any birthday special, especially at your age.
So I was wondering if you'd like to do the Torah blessings this morning.
Depends on your sound. Your sound's
No.
Thank you, Michael. The trouble is, you may not be able to hear me.
Come in here and do it from the laptop. Then do it from the
Sorry, Kev?
from the desktop. Janet, she's frozen as well now.
She's got poor connection. What have you done to her, Alan?
Why is it all back across the floor?
Well, Alan, can I leave you and Janet to sort that out?
That's
Perhaps
the
Janet
Torah
log-
blessing, sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Perhaps get Janet to log on and log off. That tends to just
Alan will sort it out. So
Oh, hey, Joseph is here. That's the important one.
absolutely.
But otherwise, you'll be relying on your singing
Many there
or my
today.
singing.
I think some people seem to be going away. No, Kevin commented on how tidy his book is.
Oh, I can imagine.
Comments from
Can you go downstairs now?
No, keep her up there. I quite like her. Hey!
Where's Mika? There we are. Okay.
All right, please.
Hello.
She's lovely.
Oh, she go-
She's
Hey.
right, Joseph.
Hello.
There was
Can you go
another
down now?
birthday of an important member in the community, which was yesterday. Lindsay Cohen had a
I
birthday
didn't realise
yesterday.
that. But I'm not
Okay.
sure. Whether...
Yeah, this is the right height, isn't it?
Yes.
The roof.
Hello, Alan's iPad. I didn't know, Alan, I didn't realise your surname was iPad.
It's an old Irish name. It's Opad, really. Right.
How's Brenda doing, Alan?
Yeah, she's doing very well. I should be going to see her after lunch. Yes, her mobility's
send her our
improving.
best.
Yes. Thank you very much indeed. I appreciate that. I will.
What's the visiting like? I mean, what's the visiting like? What's it? Are there restrictions, or is it? You could
No,
come and go?
she's allowed a visit from me every day. She's allowed one visitor every day. Guess what? She's chosen me.
Oh, can't think why. But she's not allowed to.
No, I can't either.
Yeah, she's not allowed
Sorry?
to participate. So she couldn't say Julian the next day and somebody else the day after. Is it just one?
No. It has to be a nominated visitor. Anyway, how are you, Kevin? Yeah.
Well, not too bad. Bearing up. Barnet football season starting next week.
Excellent.
Could be
Oh, that's
worse. I
right,
could be an
yeah.
Arsenal
Go to-
fan.
By the way,
Oh,
Kevin, I went to see them against Harrow Borough on Tuesday
Oh,
night.
yes.
They won 4-0.
That's what I heard. Champions of Harrow.
Yep.
Okay, that's interesting. Anyway, we're almost ready to start. Shall we nominate a few mitzvahs? Janet,
Yes, please.
Yeah, Janet, do you want to do a sound check?
Janet, I've given one.
Hey.
Yeah, but just Janet speak to us.
Oh, Janet.
Hello. I'll go in with Alan for the Torah blessing.
Okay, yeah, okay, with Alan, that's good. Okay, marvellous. Okay. Now,
Do you want to check my sound now? Sorry, Mika's.
yeah, okay, yeah, okay. Go on, testing, go on, Joseph.
La 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 la. Hold on.
A bit louder, perhaps.
I'll be able to turn the
Let me just check the sound.
We're unmuted, aren't we?
And let's
Okay. La 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 la
Hey, that's
la.
okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, I know the words to that song. Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. So who let's get volunteers? Somebody perhaps would like to do the blessing for the royal family and our politicians. They need all the prayers they can get. Is that Hannah's hand? I can
I'll do
see.
that, okay?
Okay.
Yes.
And for our virtual community, I think that's George. Yep. And Maureen, would you like to do Israel? And beware, you may be picked on at random. So keep up. We've got a minion nearly. Yes, we have. So,
What service are we on?
well, Michael will do all the announcements, I'm sure,
Okay.
about page number.
service 2.
Service
Okay,
2.
thank you.
Okay. And I'd like to offer a warm welcome to Michael. I think you've done one service for us in person at Bethesda Road. It's now a building site.
Yes, I did. That was first one I've done with Alan and everyone. That was very nice. That was a couple of years ago now.
It was. I don't vaguely remember it. And of course, you know, the building no longer exists as a synagogue anyway. So I'm going to say welcome back, even though it's a different environment to previously. And I know you've also, would you like to explain your history with the Mosaic, your link with Mosaic?
Well, some of you may remember, because I think I did talk about it last time, that my parents joined Wembley Liberal when I was round about 11 years old, and I had my confirmation in the synagogue in 1966. Standing at the very reading desk which you have lovingly kept in spite of the move from Preston Road. And then more recently, from 2001 to 2017, I was rabbi of Kol Chai. And of course, we worked very closely with our neighboring synagogues. And I still do a number of joint things with Mosaic. Sometimes Shavuot I've done study sessions with Rabbi Kathleen. So I have long-standing links with your community.
And long may they continue.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're always welcome, whether it's in person or at the moment, obviously virtually. Okay, so are we ready to go then? Could I ask everyone, including myself, to mute themselves? And obviously, if you've got a meeting, unmute, then mute again. I think we're all familiar with the procedure. So over to you, Michael. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We're going to read service 2, begins on page 112, and we'll go straight into the singing of Matovu.
Thanks, Michael. So 112. Matovu, ochalecha Yaakov, ochalecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael. Matovu, ochalecha Yaakov, ochalecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael. Bani barov chazdecha avovetecha eshtachavei el heichal koshecha b'yiratecha Matovu ochalecha Yaakov ochalecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael. Matovu ochalecha Yaakov ochalecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael. Adonai ahavti me'on beitecha makom mishkan kavodecha v'ani ashachaveh be'ekra efrecha lifnei Adonai osi Matovu Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael. Matovu Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael. Vani Tefilati lecha Adonai et Ratzon Elohim Baruch chasdecha Aneni bemet Yisheha Matovu Ohalecha Yaakov Mishkanotecha Yisrael Matovu Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael.
So I invite you to read along with me, though please remain muted, but please join in at home. Eternal God, a mystery surrounds my life. What came before it and what lies beyond it are shrouded in darkness. But in the darkness is your presence, and in the mystery your love. No mind can grasp the splendor of your being. No tongue express the majesty of your works. Yet there are times when we sense a reality that is beyond our mortal sight. May this Sabbath be such a time for us. Help us to hear your voice, to find your image in our souls, and to be at peace. Elohai.
Elohai neshama shenatata bi tahorai. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tahorai. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tahorai.
Ata barat, ata yatsata, ata nafahtabi, ata mashamra bekirbi. Kol zaman shahanashamar bekirbi, mode ani lefanecha Adonai Elohai, Elohai avotai. Ribon kol hamaasim, Adon kol hanashamot, Baruch atah Adonai, asher beyadon nefesh kol chai, v'ruach kol basaish. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam baruchu, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, hamuhulal b'fi amo, Meshubach u'mefo'ah b'lshon chasidav v'avadav, bish vachot uvizmirot, negadelecha v'namlichecha, malkeinu, yachid chei ha'olamim, baruch atah Adonai, melech muhulal b'tishbachot. To you the stars of morning sing, from you their radiance bright did spring, and steadfast in their vigils day and night, your angels flooded with fervor ring your praise. They teach the holy ones to bring into your house the breath of early light. And we're going to turn now to Anim Zemirot, which is on page 116.
Sorry. Is it me now?
It is.
I just had to get a glass of water. That's why. Sorry about that. הנזמירות. ענים זמירות ושירים אהרות sorry. כי אליך נפשי תערוג נפשי חמדה בסל ידיך לדעת כל רצותיך תדברי בכבודך ומליבי אל דודך ירב נפשי עליך כי נפשי תערוג אליך.
So please turn to page 135 for Yishtabach, followed by Baruch Hu.
ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ. כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו, אלוהי אבותינו, שיר ושבחה, הלל וזמרה, ברכות והודות מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בשירי זמרה. ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Amen. So I'm wondering if it'd be possible to have a volunteer for the next prayer, which is known as the Yotzeh. Can be read in English. Somebody like to read it? Alison, thank you. You need to unmute, Alison. That's at the top of page 116.
Okay.
One, 136.
Oh, right. We praise you, Eternal One, our God and Sovereign of the universe, maker of light and creator of darkness, author of peace and creator of all things. In your mercy, you give light to the earth and all who live in it. And in your goodness, you renew creation continually, day by day. How manifold are your works, O God. With wisdom have you made them all. The world is full of your creations. Your handiwork proclaims your praise. The radiant stars bear witness to your glory. We praise you, O God, creator of life.
Thank you. Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching. Make us faithful to your commandments and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. We praise you, O God. In love you have called your people Israel to serve you. And please feel free, if you can still see your screen and follow, to stand if you wish for the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod, Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kavod, Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Va'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol mo'odecha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Anochi metzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibata bam b'shiftecha b'veitecha u'veletecha v'aderech u'v'shachvaha u'v'kumecha ukashatom la'ot al yadecha v'hayu latotafot bein einecha uchetavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'bisharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אמת ויציב וישר וקיים וטוב ויפה הדבר הזה עלינו לעולם ועד. אמת שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, מלכנו מלך אבותינו, יוצרנו שוא ישועתנו, פודנו ומצילנו מעולם הוא שמך, אין אלוהים זולתך. אמת אתה הוא ראשון, ואתה הוא אחרון, ומבלעדיך אין לנו מושיע. ממצרים גאלתנו אדוני אלוהינו, מבית עבדים פדיתנו, משה ומרים ובני ישראל לך אנו שירה, בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם.
מי כמוך בעלים אדוני, מי כמוך נעדה בקודש נורא 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 תהילות עושה פלא. שירה חדשה שירו קולים לשמחה, על שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמלכו ויראו. מי כמוך בעלים אדוני, מי כמוך נעדה בקודש נורא 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 תהילות עושה פלא. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני ימלוך לעולם Kadosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
Zoom services bring new ideas and new customs. And one of the interesting questions that's come up is which way to face during the Amidah. In the synagogue, we would face towards the Ark. At home, we often tend to face towards the screen. If we did the traditional thing of all facing east or towards Jerusalem, we would all be turning in a different direction, depending on how our cameras are placed. But perhaps the most appropriate thing for a Zoom service is actually to face towards each other, because we are not together, but that binds us as a community as we say these important paragraphs which form the Amidah, the Tefillah, the centre of every Jewish service. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agit tehillatech. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agit tehillatech. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Koneh Hakol, v'Zocher Chazdei Avot ve'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei v'Nehem, Lama'an Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer U'Mashiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Machayei Meitim Atah, Rav Lahoshia, Mashif Haruach, U'Morid Hageshem, Mazriach HaShemesh, U'Morid Hatal.
Machakel Chaim b'chesed, Machayei metim b'rachamim rabim, Somek noflim v'rofei cholim, U'matir asurim, U'makayem emunato lishenei afar, Mikamocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melech memit umchaye umatzmiya Yeshua ne'eman atah lachayot meitim Baruch atah Adonai machayei hametim. You're still muted, Michael. You need to unmute, Michael.
We sanctify your name, as in the prophet's vision, the hearts of heaven and sing your praise, for so written.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzavot, V'lo kol haaretz kavodo.
Kvodo malei olam.
Baruch kavod Adonai mimkomo.
Mimkom malkeinu tofina v'tzitoch aleinu, ki machakim anachnu lach.
Yemlok Adonai leolam, Elohai Yiksion, Ladovado, Alleluia, Ladovado, 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 Nagid kolecha, Ola netzach netzach נצחים ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור נגיד קולך ולנצח נצחים ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושפחה אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד לא ימוש לא ימוש לעולם ועד לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור נגיד קולך ולנצח נצחים ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Could I ask, please, for a volunteer to read the next paragraph? Okay. Mr. Zatz.
Paul.
Paul, sorry.
You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day for your service. When, upon its coming, we pause to contemplate our life, we learn anew that we do not live by bread alone, but also by the spiritual nourishment we receive when we open ourselves to your influence. We thank you for the Sabbath day and for the opportunity it offers to enhance the quality of our lives. We thank you for its joy and for its peace. May our worship help us to take into our hearts its message of holiness and consecrate all our days by devotion to what is true, beautiful, and good.
Thank you. Yes.
ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת קורא עונג שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שומרי שבת וקורא עונג שבת מקדשי שבי שבת כולם יספחו ויתענגו מטובך שבת והשביעי רצית בו וקדשתו שבת חמדת ימים אותו קראת זכר למעשה בראשית שבת זכר למעשה בראשית שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שומרי שבת וקורא עונג שבת.
Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Eternal One, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat, we praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu b'amcha Yisrael, u'tefilatam b'ahava tekabel, u'tehi l'ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha, Baruch atah Adonai, she'otacha levadacha, b'yira na'avod, modim anachnu lach, She'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu le'olam va'ed, sur chayenu, magen yeshenu, atahu lador, vador. Nodelacha unesapet tehilatecha, al chayenu hu mesarim biadecha, va'al nishvotenu hapakudot lach, va'al nisecha shebechol yomimanu, va'al niflotecha v'tovotecha, shebechol eit erev v'voker v'soharaim, Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, halacha na'eh, lohodot.
שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל ישראל עמך, בכינו אבינו כולנו כאחד, באור פניך, כי באור פניך נתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, שים שלום, טובה וברכה, אין בחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל ישראל עמך, תורת חיים ואחוות חסד וצדקה וברכה, רחמים וחיים ושלום. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, הן בחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל ישראל עמך, וטוב, וטוב, וטוב בעיניך, לברך את עמך ישראל, את כל העמים, בכל עת, בכל שעה בשלומך. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, הן בחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל ישראל עמך. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום.
During the silence, I'd like to invite you to just reflect for a few moments on the past week, the things that have gone right, the things that have gone wrong, and also on the coming week, our hopes and plans and what we'd like to do and achieve in the next 7 days.
עושה שלום במרמיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרמיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרמיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל בני אדם.
Thank you. And we're going to have a very short theme reading before the Torah service. I'd like to read part of page 168, This is on the theme of conservation and the environment, which will come up in our Torah reading this morning, looking after our world and how important it is. So I'm going to begin with the second paragraph on the page, and please join in with the words in italics. 168. We have forgotten who we are. We have become estranged from the movements of the earth. We have turned our backs on the cycles of life. We have sought only our own security. We have exploited simply for our own ends. We have distorted our knowledge. We have abused our power. Now the land is barren and the waters are poisoned and the air is polluted. Now forests are dying or burning, and the creatures are disappearing, and humans are despairing. We ask forgiveness. We ask for the gift of remembering. We ask for the strength to change. For it is not yet too late. There is, please God, still time to learn the simple truth. One glorious chain of love, of giving and receiving, unites all creatures. None is by or for itself, but all things exist in continual reciprocal activity, one for all and all for one.
Eli, shelo yigamer leolam, ahol v'chayam, rishvu shel hamayim, mara hashamayim, tevilat ha'olam, ahol v'chayam, rishvush shel hamayim, baruch hashamayim, tevilat ha'adam. Eli, Eli.
And we come now to page 481 and our Torah service. We do not have an ark or a scroll to take out from it, but we can have the music that accompanies that beautiful ceremony. So, 481.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kamasecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha b'chol dovaru. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yavareh et amo b'shalom.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadol Adonai, and Ramamah Shemo Yachad.
L'Adonai, HaGadula, v'HaGevura, v'HaTiferet, v'HaNetzah, v'HaHod, v'HaNetzah, v'HaHod, Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz. L'Adonai ha'mamlecha v'hamidnaseh, l'Hol l'Rosh.
So This week from the Torah, I'm going to read the very last part of Sedra Shoftim, a very important section of Deuteronomy which begins talking about justice and then goes on to tell us about different kinds of justice in the world, and more particularly in the land to which the people of Israel are about to cross over and enter. There are two separate subjects, two paragraphs in this reading. The first one contains the very interesting command that if you are in a war and you are besieging your enemies, of course, this is what the Israelites are about to do when they cross the Jordan. They're going to capture, first of all, Jericho and then other cities. If you're laying siege to a city, you have to be careful not to cut down the trees, with the exception of those that can't be used for food. So those which can, like fruit trees, must not be destroyed even in a war. Interestingly, the reason given is not the obvious one, that you may need them after the war. And as we know, things like olive trees take a very long time to regrow if they're destroyed. But that's not the reason given. The reason given is one of compassion for the trees. It says, "Are trees of the field human to withdraw before you into the besieged city?" The trees cannot save themselves, so people have to save them. Now, the rabbis made a huge amount out of this commandment. They really expanded it. The argument, rabbinic argument, was that if you can't destroy trees even during a war, how much less so should you harm trees at times of peace? And from this was gradually developed the hugely important environmental principle of Bal Tashchit. You shall not destroy or waste anything at all. And this was put most graphically by the anonymous medieval writer who wrote the Sefer HaHinuch, the Book of Education, for his young son or perhaps his grandson. He said, "This is the way of the people of piety and the observant. They love peace. They're happy at the good fortune of people. They bring them to Torah, and they will not even destroy a single mustard seed in the world. And they are distressed at every ruination and spoilage that they see. If they're able to do any rescuing, they will save anything from destruction with all their power." And in the Talmud, we see a huge number of environmental rules, careful disposing of hazardous waste, a regulation of industries causing air pollution, not killing animals for convenience, not wasting fuel, energy. Even in the laws of Shabbat, there are passages which say you shouldn't eat extravagant foods when simpler ones will do. Now, all these rules formulated by the rabbis of old more than 1500 years ago are so relevant for our time, and we live in a world where most of them are not observed properly. So that's a very clear message from this first of the two paragraphs in the Torah reading. The second one is also fascinating, and I'm not going to tell you anything about it now because I'll talk about it in more detail later on in the service, but I will read and translate it for you. So if we could share the screen, please. Deuteronomy 20:19 to 21:9. And I would like to call up Janet. Janet, if you could just tell me your Hebrew name.
Simcha Bas Esther.
Ta'amod Likro B'Torah, Simcha Bat Esther.
Baruchu et Adonai Hamaborah.
Baruch Adonai Hamavorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamaborah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'chach banu kol ha'amim, v'nasach lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noteh haTorah.
Amen. כי תצור העיר ימים רבים להילחם עליך לתובשה, כי תשחית את עצי לנדוח עליו גזן. כי ממנו תאכל ואותו לא תכרות, כי הדם עץ השדה לבוא מפניך במצור. So if you're in a war and you're laying siege to a town for a long time, in order to capture it, you must not destroy its trees with an axe. You may take fruit from them, but you must not cut them down. Are trees of the field human, that they could run away from you, go into the city under siege? Rachetz asher teda ki lo etz machal hahu oto tashid v'charat uvanita matzo kol ha'ir asher hi osa imcha milchama ad ridata. So you're only allowed to destroy the trees that you know cannot produce any food. Those you can cut down are to build your siege works against the town that makes war with you until it falls. Interestingly, in the archaeology of ancient Israel, they found many utterly destroyed towns, not just by the Israelites, destroyed by many other peoples in ancient warfare, and they've even found remains of siege works surviving from ancient times. So we now come on to a completely different subject. Ki yimatzeh chalal uva'adama asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha l'rishta nofel basadeh lo noda mi hikachu. So, in this land that God's giving you to possess, suppose it happens that a body, a slaughtered body, is found lying in a field, in open country, and it's not known who struck him. V'yatsa zikanecha v'shoftecha umadadu el ha'arim asher sevivot hechalal. So what you have to do is the elders and the judges come out and they have to measure the distance to the nearest cities to the dead body. V'haya ha'ir ha'karova et hechalal v'lakachu ziknei ha'ir ha'i eglat baka asher lo ubad ba asher lo mashcha ba'ol. And then, when you found the nearest city, the elders of that particular town have to take a young calf, a male one, which has never been worked and never been pulled in a yoke. V'horidu ziknei ahir hahi et ha'egla El nachal etan asher lo ye'avad bo v'lo yizareya v'hu sham et ha'egla b'nachal. And they bring this calf. I made a mistake. I said a male one. I think it's a female one. They bring it down to a wadi, a stream. But most wadis dry up in the summer, so this is one which always has water in it, in a place which has never been ploughed or sown, and they have to break the neck of the calf in the wadi. V'nigashu hakohani b'nei Levi ki v'ambacha Adonai Elohecha l'sharato ulevarech b'shem Adonai al pihem yichyeh kol ri v'chol naga. And then the priests, who are the sons of Levi, come forward because they are the ones that God has chosen to give blessings and to minister to him in the name of God. And it is out of their mouths that all disputes and cases have to be settled. V'chol ziknei ha'ir ha'hi ha'krobim et chahalal Yechatsu et yedehem al hegla harufa banachal. And then they arrange this little ceremony. All the elders of this town that is nearest the body have to wash their hands over the dead calf whose neck they've broken there. V'anu v'amaru yadeinu lo shafachu et adam hazeh v'anenu lo ra'u. And they make this declaration: our hands did not shed this blood, nor were we witness to it. We didn't see what happened. Kapeh la'amcha Yisrael asher padita Adonai val titein dam naki v'kerev amcha Yisrael v'nekapeh lachem hadam. Absolve, O God, your people Israel whom you redeemed. Do not let the guilt of innocent blood remain in the midst of your people Israel. Then they will be absolved of blood guilt. V'ata tuva'eh hadam hanagi mikibecha ki ta'aseh hayashar b'einei Adonai. In this way, with this ceremony, you shall purge the guilt of innocent blood from your midst, because you must do what is right in the sight of God. Blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah v'chayei olam v'chadateinu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Janet, we wish every blessing on you for your very special birthday, and we're going to sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday dear Janet, happy birthday to you. Mazel tov, and have a wonderful time.
Thank you, Michael.
Are you doing anything special?
A little tea party.
Very nice.
Thank
Lovely.
you. Thanks very much.
How many, Janet? Would you like to share how many?
Well, I'm not 36 anymore.
Okay.
Okay, so we have Stephen to read the Haftarah, and it's a very, very beautiful passage from Isaiah 52. This is Isaiah's message to the city of Jerusalem as the exiles return from Babylon. The city is imagined to be a captive daughter who is now set free. Isaiah describes it as if the city has been asleep for 70 years in the destroyed state in which the Babylonians left it, and now is called to awake and put on beautiful clothes, for it is to be a holy city. The message to Jerusalem is you will not be sold into captivity again, but you will come home to your beautiful mountains, following a herald who announces happiness. This is really a messianic passage. The people are on the march towards the land, just as they were after the Exodus from Egypt, with God going in front of them, ready to comfort the people and to redeem Jerusalem. And much of the imagery we carry, not just in our Jewish culture, but in our Western culture and British culture too, of Jerusalem as a holy city, Jerusalem rebuilt, Jerusalem as a city symbolizing peace. It comes from Isaiah passages like this. So let's read it with great joy. Stephen, over to you.
Thank you, Michael, and happy 37th birthday, Janet. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bacha b'nibi'im tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emarim ba'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah u'b'moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'b'nbi'ei ha'emet b'tzedek. Awake, awake, put on your strength, O Zion. Put on your beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, a holy city. For the uncircumcised and the unclean shall no longer come against you. Shake yourself from the dust. Arise, O captive Jerusalem. Release the shackles round your neck, O captive daughter of Zion. For thus says God, you were sold for no price, and you shall be redeemed without money. For thus says the eternal God, long ago my people went down into Egypt to live there, and Assyria has oppressed them without cause. Now therefore, what have I here, declares God, that my people are taken away without cause? Their rulers howl, declares God, and all the time, every day long, my name is insulted. Therefore my people shall know my name. Therefore on that day they shall know that it is I who speak. Here I am. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of the messenger who announces peace, who brings good news, who announces salvation, who says to Zion, your God reigns. Listen, your sentries lift up their voices. Together they sing for joy, for every eye sees God's return to Zion. Break forth together into singing, you ruins of Jerusalem, for God has comforted her people and has redeemed Jerusalem. God has bared his holy arm before the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God. Depart, depart, go out from there. Touch nothing unclean. Go out from the midst of it, purify yourselves, you who carry God's vessels. For you shall not go out in haste, and you shall not go in flight. For God will go before you, and the God of Israel will gather you in. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, sur kol haolamim sadiq b'chol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'me'ir v'oseh ha'medaber u'mekayem shekol davarav emet v'tzedek. Al ha'torah v'al ha'vodah v'al hanvi'im v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, likdusha v'limnucha l'chavod u'latiferet. Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach u'mebarachim otach. Yitbarach shimcha b'fi kol chai tamid la'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
Koyach, Chazak Baruch, strength and blessing to you. And now I'd like to invite Hannah, George, and Maureen to read our community prayers. Hannah.
Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our Sovereign Lady, Queen Elizabeth, and all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity.
Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this congregation, its leaders and its members, and all who enter this synagogue to meet, to study, and to pray. Comfort the sorrowing hearts among us, and heal those in anxiety or pain. May we all find here community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage, and a sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the House of Israel throughout the world. Let those who live under oppressive rule soon be freed, and may we all unite to witness to your truth and to do your will.
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbours, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem. Amen.
Thank you all very much. This is the moment in our service when we think of those we know who are not well. And we pray that the warmth of God's light will envelop all those who need its power and those who visit and care for them. If you have any particular person you would like to mention, please unmute and say the names.
I would like to mention my mother-in-law, who's still in hospital but slowly recovering, Mabel. I'll be seeing her later today, and hopefully that will cheer her up.
I'd like to mention Ruth Eva Fiegel, who is still in hospital with a stroke, and her condition is stable, but I think there are some promising signs now. I'd also like to mention my cousin, Herbert Volken in Glasgow, who is again in hospital.
Also from our community, thinking of Gina Greenglass, and also I hope you don't mind me saying Alan, your wife Brenda, who I know you're seeing later today as well, and again send her all our best wishes.
And Sandy Amber.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Rofeh HaCholim. On page 486.
יהללו את שם אדוני, כי נזקף שמו לבדו. אותו על ארץ ושמיים, וירם קהל לעמו, תהילה לכל חסידיו, לבני ישראל, עם קרוב. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
And on 488, God's teaching is perfect, reviving the soul. God's word is unfailing, making wise the simple. God's precepts are right, delighting the mind. God's commandments are clear, enlightening the eyes. God's doctrine is pure, enduring forever. God's guidance is true and altogether just.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. Hashivenu Adonai, Elecha v'nashuva, Chadesh Yamenu ka'kedem, Chadesh Yamenu ka'kedem, Chadesh Yamenu, Chadesh Yamenu ka'kedem.
Thank you. So I'd like to dedicate my remarks this morning to the memory of a man that I'm going to call Lee Suskind, although that wasn't actually his real name. He was a rock musician from New York who frequently visited England, which he loved. He was also a great lover of art. He worked for a while at the Metropolitan Museum of Art and a lover of browsing round and buying from rare bookstores. Sadly, at the age of 38, he was found on his own dead in a hotel room in Salford in Greater Manchester. Apparently, he'd had some kind of epileptic seizure. The police and the coroner's inquiries managed to contact his family, and they established that he was Jewish. At that time, I was rabbi of Menorah Synagogue in Manchester, and out of the blue, I got a phone call asking me to arrange and conduct a funeral for him. Naturally, I phoned his family in New York, but sadly, they all seemed to have fallen out with him for one reason or another, and they weren't able, or perhaps couldn't cope with, either flying his body home or flying across themselves to attend his funeral. And we didn't have Zoom in those days. So it was with a heavy heart that I phoned round a few helpful members of the congregation, and we gathered for the funeral service. It was a very strange occasion. There we were, gathered at the graveside of somebody that not one of us had ever met. And yet, in spite of that, it was surprisingly poignant and moving. I have a very vivid memory of it over the years. In Jewish tradition, it's a very special duty to take care of a dead body when there's no family available. And it comes out of that strange passage we read this morning from the Torah, which is a kind of case law. The body of an unknown stranger is found in open country, apparently murdered. Now, these days we would call the police, but back then there weren't any. And nor was it easy in the days before photography to identify a body. So this is what happened. The judges have to take measurements to work out which is the nearest city. Now that sounds like rather a difficult task, but land surveying was surprisingly sophisticated in ancient times. Just a few days ago, the Jerusalem Post had a picture of a clay tablet from Babylon describing land measurements from 3,800 years ago. Once they found the nearest city, the elders of the city gather and they perform a very peculiar ceremony, breaking the neck of a young calf in a valley and literally washing their hands of the deed. It's nothing to do with us, they proclaim. So what on earth is going on here? You can understand it like this. It begins by reminding us that the body's been found in the land given us by God. The implication of this is that in the first instance, we are all responsible. It is the people who have inherited this land, and they are therefore the guardians of good conduct. And the very first verse of the story addresses everybody in the singular, in the land which you singular, God, has given you personally to possess. But a feeling of guilt on its own is unhelpful. It needs some process, some ritual to remove it. And that's why the elders and the judges on behalf of everybody from the nearest town have to take responsibility. In a public ceremony, they make a declaration. Our hands have not shed this blood, nor have our eyes seen it. Forgive your people Israel, whom you've saved, and do not allow innocent blood to remain in the midst of your people. And then they are forgiven, says the text. The rabbis of the Midrash question this funny declaration. They say, why should they have to say, our hands have not shed this blood? Isn't it obvious that the leaders of the community wouldn't have been responsible? Why are they called upon to deny something nobody would have suspected of them? The answer they gave is quite remarkable. Can it be, they said, that the elders of a court of justice are shedders of blood? But what it means is that this dead man had not come into their city and been sent away without food, or been seen traveling and left to go to a place of danger on his own. The point here is that an individual's responsibility for his deeds is not an escape clause for the politicians or the rabbis or the rest of us. If dead bodies start appearing in an area, it's reasonable to ask searching questions, not just about who is the criminal, but about government and local policy and resources, and about the moral leadership of society. It's always been an issue. It's an issue still, of course, in London, with the amount of knife crime and how we can tackle it. And this is why we have this very strange part of the story, killing the calf. I think it's like this. Just as in the book of Exodus, the golden calf was thought of to be a substitute for God by the people mistakenly. And in the book of Numbers, the ashes of a red cow are used to purify those who've touched a dead body. So here the dead animal is part of their ceremony of atonement for the death of the unknown person. There was an ancient and universal fear of the dead, which if not dealt with could get out of control. Perhaps the ceremony called attention and functioned as a public message that everything was being dealt with. That's how Maimonides put it. And in our Jewish tradition, the common practice of washing hands when leaving a cemetery is a reminder of this story and this ancient ritual. Rabbi Rachel told us last week about the month of Elul and its importance. So we're now in that time of year when our tradition calls us to start thinking about our deeds and our lives. And today we have this little reference in our Torah to innocent blood, dam naki. And in just over a month, at the other end of our penitential season on Yom Kippur, that little phrase comes again in the book of Jonah. The storm is raging and the sailors are about to throw Jonah overboard because he tells them it's the only way to calm the sea. And the sailors say, "Do not let us perish with this man. Do not hold us guilty for shedding innocent blood." The same phrase. They don't do a calf, but actually they do something much worse. They throw a man overboard in the midst of a terrible storm. Innocent blood. The non-Jewish sailors in the book of Jonah echo the prayer of the elders in Deuteronomy in this morning's story. Suddenly, the plea for God's forgiveness has spread out from the people of Israel to the world at large. And that's the message of Yom Kippur. So I began by telling you about Lee Suskind and the sad story of how he died and the funeral we arranged for him. A few months later, I got another phone call out of the blue, this time from a member of the congregation. "Rabbi," he said, "I've been talking to those who came to Lee's funeral, and we would like to club together and raise some money and put up a gravestone for him." He was as true as his word, and that's what happened. And when it was ready, we gathered once again, all of us, for the stone setting, or as they call it in Manchester, the unveiling. And so that gravestone remains there, not just to remind people of the sad story of a man who died alone in a hotel room, but to remind us of how caring and loving a community can be at its best, and the huge challenges and huge rewards of looking after and showing compassion for people we haven't even met. May this coming season be for all of us a time of memory, but also a time of joy, a time of searching, but also a time of renewal, a time of repentance, but also a time of hope. Shabbat Shalom. And we continue with Aleinu, which is on page 520. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, אשר שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו וגורלנו להמליך מלכותו.
ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש, הקדוש, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
שהוא נוטה שמיים ויסד ארץ, מושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, שינתו זו בגופי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס עולתו. ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבותה אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת, אין עוד. And we continue on page 521 with V'ne'emah.
ונאמר בחיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
As we worship before you, O God, we think of those who once shared with us the joys and burdens of life, and who are no longer in our midst. The sorrow of bereavement is softened by the bond of love, which continues to unite us with our dear ones, and by our cherished memories of them, which we will always carry in our hearts. This week, we mourn the death of Rosa Pincus, the mother of Lawrence Pincus and Mel Lacey. El Malay Rachamim, O God full of mercy, cover her in the shelter of your wings forever. Invite her soul into the body of life. And we think too of all those who've died this coming week in years past, whose anniversary, whose yahrzeit comes at this time. Especially Sylvia Bronstein, the mother of Julia Lane, Sidney Foreman, the father of Marcus Foreman, Miriam Kuna, the mother of Diana Ayres, Balk Sanderson, the father of Harold Sanderson and grandfather of Stephen, and Michael Sharp, the husband of Sonia Sharp. May all that was good in their lives remain with us as an influence for good. O God, grant consolation to those who are in sorrow and light to those in darkness. Teach us at all times to put our trust in you and to praise your name. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah Ba'alma divarach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei B'hayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael B'galav izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mavarach la'alam la'al me'al maya Yit barach v'yish tabach v'yit pa'a v'yit romam v'yit naseh v'yit hada v'yit taleh v'yit halal shemei dekudesha barichu v'ela min kol bichata v'sherata tush b'chata v'nechamata damiran balma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rava min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol b'nei Adam, v'yimru, amen. May the Most High, source of perfect peace, grant peace to us, to all Israel, and all humanity, and let us say, amen.
Amen.
Announcements.
Yes, this is the time you remembered. But before making any announcements, I'd like to say a massive thank you to Michael for taking and leading inspiring and educational service. And I love the way you laid the actual Torah reading. I'm sorry if I think I lost the screen share at one stage, but that don't get detracted from what was really beautifully read. Torah service. So
Lucky I wasn't reading it from your screen share.
Yeah, I know.
It's been a huge pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, and we look forward to, please God, and we will be obviously continuing doing Zoom services as well. But really, what my actual kind of desire is now new building in Stanmore. Please God, one day you'll be sort of taking a service from there in person, in real life.
Okay, you're at some.
Yes. Okay, some announcements, and I'm now going to attempt to do another screen share. I don't know if everyone can see this. This is all from our website anyway. There is a tea party tomorrow. It is COVID friendly. Obviously, you can't contact the office now, but if you want to come along, I think Alan knows where it is. We can't reveal it. But if you want to email either me or Alan, or contact me if you still want to make a last minute booking. Okay. And then we've got also a Zoom talk from Philip Silverton. He's into antiques and restoring furniture. but he's actually going to give a sort of talk about different products, a bit of nostalgia here as well, and he'll be displaying that on Zoom. And this really does interest me. I'm really going to try and make an effort to attend. Rose Gartenberg sounds like an amazing journey from Romania to Palestine somehow, obviously during difficult times. So again, this will be Steve Levinson will be. Yeah, it's not actually Rose Gartenberg's journey. It is about the story of someone who went through this incredible kind of journey, and that will be with Jax. And again, you can get all the links from the website. Okay, I'm going to stop the share. Regarding services, next Friday evening service will be led by Gwendolyn. It'll be joined with Reform, but Gwendolyn, I don't think anyone sort of actually attended the service. Very good. She's a beautiful singer, and she always comes up with some sort of words of wisdom as well from her sermons. And I believe, is it Joseph next Shabbat? Is it?
Yeah,
Please
I think
confirm
so.
it is.
That's right.
But even if Joseph doesn't know about it, it is. He will be obviously
Yeah, I think so.
doing like a cantorial service next Shabbat. That's me done for announcements. Alan, Stephen, anyone else want to?
No, not for me. Thank you.
No. You will be getting your these at the High Holy Days notices very soon. They're with your Kahila. So it is, I think everyone knows by now that it is going to be on Zoom. But all the details, timings, etc., will be kind of with you very shortly.
Kevin, just like to also thank Michael for his sermon, which I found very inspiring, and the notion of the responsibility that we have for people we may not know. You know, thoughts go out to people like refugees and asylum seekers as well in today's difficult times. So thank you very much for that as well.
Yeah, I was moved by the story about, was it Lee? I was very moved by that story. So it just goes, yeah, it was a real eye opener. Thank you very much, Michael. Okay, so let's announcement. So what are we going to finish off with?
I don't know, Lam.
I think I've heard of that one. Yeah, I've heard once or twice. Yeah. Okay, go for it.
אדון עולם השם עלה, בטרם כל יציר נברא, ועת נשא בחפץ הכל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. אדון עולם השם עלה, בטרם כל יציר נברא, ועת נשא בחפץ הכל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוק נורא. והוא היה, והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון העולם, השם אלוה, בטרם כל יציר נברא, ועת נשא בחפץ הכל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. והוא אחד ואין שני, לחמשילו, לחכבירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז המזרע. אדון העולם, השם אלוה, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפץ הכל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. והוא אלי בהי גולי, וסוחב לי בעת צרה. והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום הקרא. אדון העולם, השם אלוה, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפץ הכל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. ויעלתו הפקיד רוחי, ועת תישן בעירה, ואם רוחי גביעתי, אדוני לי ולא יירא. אדון העולם, השם אלוה, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפץ הכל, אזי מלך Shamonika Adon Olam Hashem Alma B'Terem Kol Yetzirah La'ed Nasan B'Chesed Kol Azar Melech Shamonika.
Our God and God of our ancestors, bless us with the threefold benediction of the Torah. Yivarechacha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Adonai panav elecha v'yikonecha. May God look kindly upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God reach out to you in tenderness and give you and all of us the gift of peace. Shabbat shalom. Please unmute.
Shabbat shalom.
And then we'll have Kiddush.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Does
Shabbat
anyone
shalom.
need time to get their supplies?
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom. I'm afraid we have to go.
See you, George, Mary, Shabbat shalom.
George, and see you.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you very much, Michael. That was a wonderful, wonderful service. Very inspiring.
Thank you.
Are we waiting for Alan to join Janet? Is it your birthday today, Janet?
Yeah, it's coming. Tomorrow. Didn't hear me. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, your happy birthday for tomorrow.
Same as my girls.
Are we ready?
Go on.
Yep.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat medoratam berit olam beini v'bnei Yisrael lo tilu olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim et ha'aretz v'yom hashvi'i davar v'nafesh. Therefore God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy. Baruch atah Adonai Einu melech haolam, borei puri
I'd love to invite Steve.
Amen.
Do her mum, Steve.
Hi. Kiddish.
God, Stephen.
It's my Kiddish. Look.
We do it.
Yeah.
Shalom, everybody, and thank you for all your good wishes and cards for Brenda, whom I'll be seeing very shortly.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Goodbye.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shabbat shalom, Alison. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you. Give my best regards to Claire.
Will do. Thank you.
Prayer for Watford today, Kevin. I'm sure you'll be praying.
You haven't got a prayer. I think a prayer for Arsenal.
Who are they playing? Who are they playing, Stephen?
Thank you, Mike.
Aston Villa.
Lovely, lovely service.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Very nice service.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Take care. Have a good week.
Everyone have a good
Bye all.
Bye-bye.
Take care. All the best to you, Rania.
Thank you, Kevin. Same to you.
Yeah, and we'll speak soon. Thank you,
Yes.
Michael. We'll be in touch, Michael, at some stage.
Okay, bye-bye.
We'll definitely see you.